Welcome to Being Intrepid, where we share practical insights from leaders who are shaping the future of learning and work. I'm your host, Sam Herring. I'm thrilled to be joined by Gordon Trujillo, Vice President and Head of Talent Management and Development at DaVita Kidney Care. DaVita is a leading healthcare company focused on delivering personalized kidney care and dialysis services for people living with chronic kidney disease. I recorded this conversation with Gordon just before the Christmas holidays. So even though we're publishing this early in the new year, it captures that end of the year moment when leaders step back and take stock of what they're building. In this episode, we discuss what it means to develop talent in a healthcare environment where the work is both operationally complex and deeply human. Gordon shares what DaVita has learned by studying the new hire experience from end to end, selection, onboarding, to scheduling, training, and the critical role managers play in creating a sense of belonging from day one on the job. We also talk about why connecting new teammates with their teams and patients quickly isn't just a cultural priority, it's also a business and care imperative. And we explore the opportunity for AI to strengthen learning through more personalized coaching, practice, and reflection, while keeping the focus on rehumanizing work rather than simply chasing the newest technology. It's a thoughtful conversation about workforce resilience, leadership, and building the capabilities healthcare organizations need right now. And now, on with the episode.
Gordon, welcome to Being Intrepid.
Thank you, Sam. So glad to be here. Looking forward to this conversation. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Absolutely. So good to see you. And as we're talking about in our warm up, we've known each other for many years in this crazy industry of corporate learning.
We have. All the stories, all the places that we've been, the folks that we've learned from, the things that we're seeing. It's an exciting time. I'm excited to jump in.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to have a conversation about, what you've done in your career, what you've seen along the way. And maybe to start off, you have a really interesting career journey. You start off as a software engineer
Yeah.
and kind of led into learning and development. And it is a really interesting path. Can you tell us how you got, focused on L&D in your
I
career?
know. Yeah, the career stories, the career journeys in the L&D and the broader talent space are always interesting. So I'm
Yes.
probably one of many, but
Yes.
let's just start there. You're right. Undergraduate chemical engineering, petroleum refining with a minor in economics, always had a heavy bend towards what can technology help us do differently, and how does it help us enable a different way of working. And so that led me to consulting right out of school. Started when it was
Yeah.
Anderson Consulting, spent
Yeah.
a little over 16 years at Accenture in a variety of roles globally, all within the talent and learning space. And I think, for anyone that would ask me, or is interested in getting into the space, I think what it afforded me was the ability to sort of like see different
Mm.
problem sets across
Hmm.
industries and across
Hmm.
geographies, and just be able to like unpack problems as quickly as possible. I think that was like that's the fun part about consulting is you're just working with different individuals and personalities and like problems, and that led me to a place of just saying, hey, I'm ready to see if I can do this on my own. Accenture had a pretty strong learning culture before I got there and continued to evolve over time as they grew. And I left to join Visa to lead the learning organization there, amidst other things. But technology followed me there as well. As you know, Accenture invests a ton in
Yeah.
technologies and those kinds of things. And we were on a tech transformation at Visa in
Hmm. Hmm.
2015 to 2021, and that has not stopped. We are now in this age of
Yeah.
AI, which I know will some point that'll sprinkle into this conversation. But now at DaVita, a little over 4 years now at DaVita in healthcare, solving some of the toughest and the most fun problems to support human beings, which is really fulfilling for me.
Yeah. What a career arc, Gordon, starting at a place like Accenture where, the product is the people, right? Development is kind of core for a firm like
Right.
Accenture to
Oh yeah.
an iconic organization like Visa, which I know really thinks of itself as a technology company, and and financial services, of course, and now in healthcare. So you've gone across these incredible sectors of our economy. And I'm really excited to dive in and understand like what are some of the differences you've seen there. But before we do that, I'd love to ask a personal question.
Yeah,
What are you focused on learning today? It could be even personal or professional.
it's a good question. Since it's the holidays, what's top of mind for me is this is a little known fact. I am in charge of our families, our collective families, year in review video. So we watch a
Okay.
video together,
How
Christmas
fun.
Eve, and I get to make that. I get to do that. I get to
Okay.
see all the pictures. This probably goes back to the days in which my dad sat me down and the rest of the family. We watched this stuff on via slideshow, like
Yeah.
legit
Oh yeah.
slideshow. You could
Click,
smell the
click.
dust burning.
Yeah.
And it has evolved so much. I think personally, what I'm excited about is just getting into it more. So many more tools these days, Sam. Like, all the
Yeah.
AI tools that are out there, it's just getting very crazy, very wild, very, very cool
Absolutely.
and fun. And then professionally, I think for many L&D leaders, AI, agent creation, both the
Mm-hmm.
manual variety, like starting to piece things together, and
Mm-hmm.
really some of these tools are moving more towards natural language
Yep.
agent creation, which is super exciting. It's just going to make this
Mm-hmm.
stuff a whole lot more accessible. So getting my arms around that, helping us think through like what does that mean for the work that we've got in front of us.
Fascinating, fascinating. Look forward to diving into that on the agentic
Yeah.
AI. And
Thanks for the question.
absolutely, as you're talking about the on the personal side, I just had this flashback to those slide reels. We'll go
Oh
click,
yeah.
click, click.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, a whole
Uh,
lot more you can do nowadays, but even where I started with this many years ago, because my children are much older now, the
yeah,
whole process, the whole thing has changed. There's so much more available now. So it's
yeah.
cool. It's cool.
So tell us about DaVita. I mean,
Yeah.
it's how what does the company do? How does it serve patients?
Yeah. So couple quick highlights for those folks that are unfamiliar with DaVita. We operate dialysis centers across the United States, internationally.
Hmm.
Increasingly, we're focused on the integrated kidney care space, supporting patients. Essentially, what that means is supporting patients before, during, and after, and sometimes instead of in-center dialysis.
Okay.
We serve hundreds of thousands of patients who need ongoing kidney support and treatment.
Yeah.
We hired lots of nurses, patient care
Hmm.
technicians,
Hmm.
physicians, social workers, dietitians, and then obviously I'm in a corporate function, and all this entire team is there to support the direct patient care that we're delivering, and that's awesome. I think like when you
Yeah.
when you are able to connect your passion area and domain expertise into a mission and purpose like that, it sort of like makes the culture come to life in a very meaningful and authentic way, especially for me and for those
Right.
folks that have heard about DaVita over time. We are really speak strongly and with a lot of conviction around living the DaVita way, which is essentially
Hmm.
like how you think about what is community, belonging,
Yep.
purpose, growth,
Yep.
opportunity. What does that all mean?
Yep.
So yeah, so that is the Vita in a nutshell, and it operates at high. It's a highly sort of scaled environment, doing this across many different centers across the globe. Um, and when you can do it in a way in which you're on a day in and day out basis, putting an emphasis on culture and leadership and
Yep.
the community, it's fascinating work. Sometimes, we kind of wake up, you're like, get to do this for a job. This is amazing.
Pinch yourself.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
To enable these, your workforce, which is having a direct impact on people's lives in a pretty major way. And I know we've talked, Gordon, about some of the challenges which come with operating that business at scale, with lots of people. So tell us a little bit about some of these people related business challenges that you're focused on solving today.
Yeah, and I think this is a similar problem area for many organizations. But attracting and selecting the
Hmm.
right talent for your organization is something that we're all collectively working on. It's becoming harder and harder. You know, Many folks would know there's, five generations now in the workforce, meaning like there's just
Hmm.
several different personas that we need to think about. You think about an organization as being an aggregation of all the main cultural elements, and you're doing that at scale. It's really important that you attract and select the right person, and then like it's even a
Yeah.
harder job to keep
Yeah.
them with you.
Yeah.
And whatever time period that is, that could be the first 3 months, that could be with the first year, after the first year, and especially when you have a frontline workforce, that is not easy. So that is a
Yeah.
place that we've continued to be heavily focused on, and I'm sure many organizations are as well.
Right, right. So yeah, this onboarding
Yeah,
challenge, I mean, it's more
yeah,
than just onboarding. Like you said, it's the attraction, the recruitment,
yep,
and
yep,
that full life cycle. So what are you finding there? I know you've done like some studies on this
yeah,
experience. Like what'd you find when you dug into this experience for new hires?
yeah. I think like what is interesting about this particular problem is that I think very often folks, we problem solvers want to go towards like what's the silver bullet, like what's the thing we
Yeah,
can do that sort
yeah,
of like solves the problem and let's move on. This
yeah,
one happens to be multifaceted.
yeah,
Everything from compensation to in a frontline workforce, what does
yeah,
do my scheduling needs being met?
yeah,
But manager is a big part of that.
yeah.
And training shows up as a category too. But like the
Okay.
training aspect of this is like sort of intertwined with so many different things. When when
Hmm.
when when we hear the training reason come up in terms of that this is why I'm choosing to take a different direction with where I want to spend time.
Yeah.
It is primarily because um, they are not feeling supported yet early
Okay.
on in their journey, either from their
Interesting.
manager or from someone who is there to help
Okay.
support their training and education.
Okay.
And that's super interesting, right? Because we have so much focus right now on technology, the
Right.
technology that can help us automate and create new experiences and sort of like become human-like. And then
Right.
many of us are
Right.
working in industries that on a day-to-day basis still require a ton of ability to like um, build trust with
Hmm.
another person.
Hmm.
Listen,
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
curious about
Hmm.
another person's wants and needs. And so I think there's a lesson to be learned there, and one that we're attacking a little bit differently, thinking about how we're connecting to someone that early in the process,
Right.
both before they start and like especially when they start, and especially like that day one, week one, month
Right.
one. So we're starting to segment the experience and be more thoughtful and intentional about what kinds of things that we want to provide in terms of solution. And it's not just tech; it is like the
Right.
human side of us too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're in it, you're operating a human business at scale, and having those managers who can, I was just talking to Scott Blanchard, Gordon, I
Yeah,
was sharing with you, and
yeah,
I asked him to distill like that wisdom of like all the wisdom of 45 years of the Blanchard organization, and what would be that kernel for leaders. And he said, your people want to know that you've got their back,
mm,
there's that trust, like you said, that
hmm
you're there to support them. So. And you've talked about that sense of belonging. So it sounds like there's this real tight connection between um, both continuously improving the onboarding experience and manager development. So you've got these twin challenges of improvement here. So I'd love to hear, based on what all these signals and these intertwined things you're hearing, like how are you going about evolving, reimagining, improving that both that new hire experience as well as that manager development experience. What are you doing differently?
yeah. So I think a couple different things. Um, I think on the front end, the attraction selection is super important. You got to be
Yep.
really clear about like who's the
Mm,
right teammate in our
yep.
in our in our context for the organization. Being
Absolutely.
really clear on those markers. Do they have the learning agility? Do they have the
Yeah.
curiosity? Do they have
Hmm.
the passion
Hmm.
for the domain space? And starting to like synthesize that, because I think what you'll find, many organizations is probably are finding this. It is not enough just to go after from a numbers game the
Yeah.
individuals, because they
Yeah.
will turn over.
Well, churn. Yeah.
And so if you're trying to play the long game here, you really want a focus on quality from
Yeah.
the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think the things that we're thinking about doing is just being more thoughtful, taking a more of a segmented approach pretty early on. So like being more clear about like what does our criteria look like for attraction and selection.
Yeah.
Assuming we can land them here, how do we engage the manager and a support system around that teammate's first day,
Yeah.
first week, being really thoughtful about how much time they're spending in training, meaning like on a
Yeah.
computer versus
Yeah.
like and trying to improve the ratio such that they're spending more time with their team
Yeah.
with potentially with patients in a
Hmm.
safe way where we
Hmm.
can kind of like, move more of their time there and so that they can really start to connect the dots to what they came to do in the first place versus
Right.
prolong.
Right.
Those are
Right.
some of the things that I think
Okay.
at a high level we're doing.
Okay.
And I think like for managers, that's for the teammate. I think for managers and what we call preceptors or, the training educators that
Okay.
support the onboarding experience. Um, the one thing that we've been really hot on is helping our leaders understand that in an operationally driven environment, if you choose curiosity
Hmm.
over certainty,
Mm.
meaning, if you can spend more time in learn mode versus
Yeah.
telling mode,
Yeah.
you get a different you have a different dialogue, a different connection that starts to be built.
Yeah.
And that can carry you through many aspects of that journey with that particular individual. And we'll talk about this in a second, but like I think the time is the biggest sort of constraint. I think every
Right.
person is
Right.
saying, I don't have, I may not have the time to do this. I'm so busy with so many other things. That's where technology comes in
Right.
to sort of,
Right.
help create that time or eliminate to some degree the time constraint so that we can spend the time being more curious with individuals because that's what they're craving and that's what will help us, on the retention. At least that's our hypothesis.
Yeah. I like how you framed curiosity because oftentimes we think about curiosity as one's, interior learning or learning about the world or learning about your job or so on. But you're talking about it in terms of a manager being curious about others, being curious about the people they work with. And,
Yeah.
I'm struck. I hear sometimes like even as a couple being a good husband, I need to stay curious about and not rush to prescribing, so it's just translating over to that relationship. It's that relationship as well.
Oh yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. There's never a day goes by where there's an opportunity there to improve
Yeah.
and suspend my own urge to want to prove, to fix, to persuade, and just really spend the
Yes.
time listening. That's like the lens that we're taking with curiosity.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's super important. You know, the one phrase that I love to like sort of reflect on, like I need to continue to get more comfortable saying I might be wrong. Help me
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
an invitation to like sort of open up the dialogue and like pull that thread.
Yeah. And so often it's something we hadn't even thought of, like that, there's a
Exactly.
situation that's gone on and we didn't know.
That's right. That's right.
So,
That's right. That's right. But like, since we're time constrained in many of our lives, y the natural inclination is to want to like, let's just move to action. Like I want to like save
yep.
myself time just to like save the two of us the time. So I'm going to move it. But like, that's not really what is needed in the moment. So
Right. Right. So you mentioned time as a barrier.
yeah,
Are there any other, as you've been kind of looking in the data and reimagining this, so any
yeah.
other kind of barriers that have jumped out for you as you've been redesigning these experiences?
I would say like from a practitioner standpoint, the barriers in this space are always going to be more around like when you have clarity around some of the data sets that
Yep.
give you the insights that inform how your population responds to certain, constraints, and what their needs are. Making sure that there's alignment across the various stakeholders that
Right.
care for
Yep.
that teammate's onboarding because it's
Yeah.
not just one function's responsibility to
No.
get that right. And
Right.
I think many times we can attack a problem because of the time constraint in our own sort of like siloed view of the
Mm-hmm.
world. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we try and go and put things together in what is essentially like a very matrixed arc of many stakeholders,
Yep.
you just don't get the impact that you
Yep.
want, that is
Yep.
possible.
Yep. I was wondering if you were gonna curious if you would go there because you've got you've got recruitment, you've
Yep.
got
Yep.
onboarding, you've got operations, which is leading, this. So I can imagine it's really building those relationships with our executives and making sure that you're
It takes
working hand in
time.
glove. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes time, but it's worth doing. Else, for many of us that work in large organizations, the investment cycles, the time it takes to implement technology, you really want to be coordinated and sequenced properly and prioritized on the right things because,
Yeah.
so many things you could go after, but like what are the things that are really going to move the needle becomes super
Yep.
important.
Yeah. So we hear a lot about human and AI,
Yeah.
and you have clearly emphasized the importance of the human experience here in onboarding, with these populations, which makes so much sense. So in that context, where do you see the opportunities for to leverage AI within L&D at DaVita?
What a time. What a time. I mean, you and I both know we've seen so many things throughout the years, like, and we're in this moment right now where there's literally an abundance
Yeah.
of things. I call it shiny objects.
Yeah.
But like it is hard to sift through, especially if you've not been
Yeah.
in the space before, to understand like which ones are going
Yeah.
to be valuable and which ones um, are still getting started, still need to
Yeah.
like fail, kind of
Right.
pivot.
Right.
It's just it
Right.
happens a lot in this
That's
space.
right. That's right.
Um, I think what is most interesting to me and most valuable, and we have to figure out the right balance is, for a long time, many of the experiences that we would create in this space, um, probably have felt a little like too impersonal, probably
Hmm.
have felt like they're just
Hmm.
not, I don't feel connected to a broader set of students or individuals to sort of like have that social learning aspect of things as well.
Right.
And I think like AI has the potential to sort of like um, help those cohort experiences evolve to a place that we all
Yeah.
want them to evolve
Yeah.
versus AI just become an answer machine, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
I think that is what I see a lot right now is that AI is being
Uh,
used as an answer machine in so
yeah.
many different places to just like churn out this ongoing set
Hmm.
of like, here's just like, here's what I'm asking for, and here's the solution. And, in the worst case scenario, quote unquote, copy paste and move forward. And that's dangerous. It's really
Right.
dangerous.
Right. Right.
Um, so I'm bullish and excited about things like immersive learning, the ability to practice with an
Yep.
AI, not to like supplant the human interaction that you should be having with your
Yep.
manager, but to like
Yep. Yep.
help someone practice in a setting. The five generations in the workforce keeps coming up for me because there's not like one way that these different personas um, want to approach
Hmm.
learning. They all have different sort of like needs and wants and nuances. And so I think AI can really help us make that simpler.
Right.
And we
Right.
just are like we're just scratching the surface of like what the possibilities are there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Practice, coaching, guided
Yep.
reflection.
Yep.
We do a lot of authoring, which is where we started with some of the things that we want to go and build and create. But even then, I'm
Yeah.
still a little hesitation around, are we just creating stuff faster?
Yep.
And what and
Yep.
what is actually doing for us? So
Yep.
it's a couple
Yep.
of different areas, yeah, that like we're working through, we're excited about. I named a couple high level, but at the end of this, I really do hope that our practice has given the opportunity to those that are willing and able to do so, is to sort of like figure out and help them figure out how is this going to augment the work that I'm doing, and like
Yep.
what does that create for me in terms of like what's the next step,
Right.
what like if that's a time thing and I like have more time to go and spend thinking about this problem differently, and like just
Right.
like dive deeper into a particular problem and leverage AI to help me like synthesize the insights or like build that
Yep.
widget, that took me like 5 hours to build, and now I can get like a good version of it like in an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of potential here, and I think from the way that I view that is just I'm a highly competitive person that is constantly trying to figure out the optimization for certain things, and I'm like really struck with this, like what can these tools help us to like just live a better life. If
Right.
it can save me some
Right.
time and solve better problems in my
Right.
professional life, what does that open me up to do in my personal life, that
Yeah.
creates more fulfillment for me? I think like these are questions that we have to ask ourselves because I think there's it's like many eras, Sam. It's like you probably should be asking yourself like what is enough, when is enough,
Yeah.
and how do I balance these kinds of things. So it has got a
Yeah.
lot of potential. It's totally abundance. We're like it's the Wild West right now, and like
Wow. Yes.
and it is like moving so fast. Like we've
Yes.
gone from like one
Yes.
use set of use cases around tools and technology and working 1v1,
Yeah.
human in like a platform, and now we have to think about what does leadership look like in an era of agents. that,
Yep.
what do organizations look like in an era of agents? And so that's going to be a
Yep.
big change for many organizations. It's important for us to like, as a domain to keep having those questions,
Yep.
and asking those questions around how do we build an organization that will be resilient through this, and then what do we learn from that?
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Wild West. I love that phrase. That's one I use a lot.
Hmm.
And you and I are both Westerners, Gordon. You're in Denver. I'm in Seattle, so we know a
That's
thing or
right.
two.
That's right.
Yeah, maybe it's with the AI applications you talked about. Um, I love the way you framed, within a social learning experience,
Yeah.
there's the opportunities for personalization, for learners to have a personalized experience and not just have it be a summarization answer, but a true coaching experience, something that's more Socratic, something that's more helping someone in their learning journey and not just, here's the answer. So we are on a journey of evolution, of sophistication of this experience, and it's iterating as we go. So as on the supply side, we are learning so much with our customers, partnering with our customers to understand these use cases and meet their needs. So I love the way you frame that, and then you also kind of talked about how how learning professionals can adopt these tools. So there's learner facing, and there's how it's affecting learners. And so
Right.
Gordon, you lead a team of learning professionals.
Yeah.
How are you talking to them about this, about their upskilling, and yeah, I'd just love to hear how you're approaching as a leader.
It's a really good question. I wouldn't isolate this. I'll expand it to like many roles in the
Yeah,
learning function. I'll use an example of a designer, but it applies all over the place.
totally, totally.
Um, because any role with this technology, there's there's opportunity for augmentation across all of them.
Yep.
Nothing nothing is saved from augmentation. Now, there's a lot of opportunity for automation too, but like, that sort of will vary by role. I think like the biggest thing that I tend to focus on in situations like this, because like this this moment is all not all that different from when we've seen other technology sort of like revolutions come in. It just so
Yep.
happens that this one is does things a whole lot faster with a whole lot more outputs that feel very human-like, that
Yep.
makes things a little like too close to home,
Yep.
if that
Yep.
resonates.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I think what we've tried to do is just, be really open in the conversation that
Hmm.
like, the tools are getting to a place where, you know, a 20-step process can be done in 5 steps now,
Hmm. Hmm.
as an
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
So like, really understanding at the task level what work is being done, sort of like how it needs to get done, and sort of like understanding where is AI best leveraged in those tasks, and just being like open and honest and real, like, look, what was 20 is going to go to 5, and like what are we
Yep.
going to do with that time that we come
Yep.
back? Is it going to be spent on just creating more stuff faster? Maybe.
Hmm.
I mean, there's probably always a part of what we do in support of the organization to help, get after other problems that need to be solved,
Yep.
so that opens
Yep.
up some capacity. I also think it
Yep.
opens up a whole lot more time for deeper thinking as well, which we sort of like we shouldn't forget. um
Absolutely.
like, let's just like really fall in love with a problem and like
Yeah.
start to like unpack it in multiple different
Hmm.
ways. Let's like test and learn some things before we think
Hmm. Hmm.
we have a real solution that we think is viable. Um, and so like I think you could take that lens with any type of role in the
Absolutely.
in the learning organization. I just so happen to
Yeah.
th I just it's just like if you talk to Josh Cavalier, then like you would know the instructional design space is there's just so much investment going
Yeah.
into this
Yeah.
space. A good
Yeah.
example of this is like, folks that have been around for a long time know that like Articulate has been around for such a long time. Like it's sort of like a standard tool set that you kind of like, needs to be on the resume. And then like over the past year and a half, there are other entrants that are coming in that it
Hmm.
came in from like a different door, like because they were really good at doing video creation and
Right.
and avatar creation with like voice synthesis and translation. And now they're asking the same question but differently, and then now they're in this space with Articulate
Yep.
and with these other
Yep.
sort of like and it's like it is just it's good for the practice.
Yep.
And I think it creates an opportunity for many of us who've been just to ask ourselves a question like, is there a better way to
Yeah.
do this? Is there a better way that is like reasonable, like that is going to like create the impact that I would want as someone who's producing something to support, an end user? And
Yeah.
the answer is like, yes, there's definitely a
Yeah.
better way. It's like just being real with ourselves that we should be adopting that better way so that we can
Right.
go and solve like new problems.
Yeah.
That's all over the place. I
Yeah.
think like the only thing that's getting in our way really is just like just being real with ourselves that there is a better way, that we sort of like can't hold those sort of like truths like too tightly, because we
Yeah.
need to evolve. We need to
Yeah.
evolve. We need to evolve in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you're pushing professionals, learning leaders to look beyond design. I mean, yes, design for sure, articulate, other Synthesia,
Yeah,
Gaussian,
yeah,
all these are
yeah,
tools, but it's also affecting facilitators,
totally.
administrators,
Yep.
schedulers, the whole ball of wax. So, because it's this generalized technology. So, that's a really good point. Um, so Gordon, if we're having this conversation in 2 to 3 years, given this rapid change, what do you envision will be different about learning at DaVita?
Yeah. 2 to 3 years. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what it's going to be. Things that look different. I think what I would hope to be having this conversation about is like how we took this moment as an
Mhm.
opportunity to like balance two truths. Yes,
Yeah.
we want to like leverage technology in a way that provides better enablement and helps us do things better, and that
Yeah.
it created the time that we could spend, being more human, with
Nice.
our stakeholders,
Yep. Yep.
with in our personal lives.
Yep.
Um, I think that's going to be really important for many organizations, especially for those organizations that want to continue to maintain and strengthen their cultures.
Right.
It will be really important to balance those two truths, and it's possible. I
That's
know it's
great.
possible. I know it's
And,
possible.
and given everything we talked about DaVita, that it is, sometimes you get the human and AI just gets kind of over
Yeah,
said so often to the point of
yeah,
being meaningless, but like the
yeah.
DaVita is a human driven organization. There's thousands of people delivering services and care to patients. And so that's not a luxury. That's core to what you do. And if more of that time can be unleashed for more human to human learning and interaction and mentorship, that's direct value to DaVita.
It is. And I would say, like, to follow up to that, just broadly speaking, I think this moment is creating, um, it's creating it's creating this opportunity by which like our resiliency is being tested in a way that is new for
Mm,
many of
mm,
us,
mm.
for many leaders of organizations, learning organizations, talent organizations. Building a resilient organization in this age of AI, it's like it is less about chasing the shiny objects, the newest technology, and
Yeah.
it's more about like how do we equip people to adapt, to craft, to learn
Mm,
continuously.
mm,
There's a really good book from 2018 written by Paul Daugherty and H. James Wilson. It's called Human Plus Machine, if I remember
okay.
correctly, Reimagining Work in the Age of AI. And it was written back in
Mm,
2018, and I think it was
mm,
pretty
mm.
pretty insightful. It talked a lot about fusion skills. There was like these 8 skills that would, and then they're very novel things to think about human expertise.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I always go back to that gets me deep in thought is like it's crazy to think like work, like the thing that we do, it's
Yep.
it's one of the single biggest time investments we make as human beings.
Yep.
Literally, like most of us will spend nearly 90,000 hours working. That's like, to put this in context, you and I have both kids. That's like 3 times the amount of time directly that we'll spend with our children,
Mm.
which is like, it's just kind of mind
Sobering.
blowing, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, really? Like three
Yeah.
times?
Yeah.
And so how do we as practitioners internalize that and push ourselves? Like, how do we rehumanize this investment? How do we make sure that we can match the right people to the work to be done in the most thoughtful, intentional way possible,
Hmm.
leveraging technology, but like let's maximize the time that we're spending like holistically so that we can have the right balance of, in my case, spending time with children and but also like being really fulfilled by the work that I'm doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, um, with that, Gordon, the last question I have to ask you is just to kind of sum it up. Like, do you have a pearl of wisdom to offer other learning leaders across your career, Accenture, Visa, DaVita, that that piece of advice that you really kind of come back to as the thing, maybe a North Star for you or something that you would offer other leaders?
Yeah. I will be highly focused in that last comment around how we spend time.
Yeah,
We talk a lot about this as a team, time that we spend at work, time that we like make sure that we have a healthy balance of time at work and time in the places that bring happiness to us as individuals.
yeah,
And so the shiny objects will be there, the technology
yeah.
will be there. It is like not to get too like like let's not shift so much with the pendulum that we sort of like lose
Right,
that
right,
perspective,
right,
but like we take all this in with perspective and we're just like super thoughtful and you
yeah.
involve the team in helping us like move through this moment. That's where I'll be spending time.
Love that. Love that, Gordon. So thoughtful. Thank you for joining me today and sharing, your experience, and your perspective and your wisdom. And you're a deeply thoughtful person, and I really appreciate you sharing all that with us today.
It's amazing. I can't believe we're already at the end of another year. I'm sure I'll see you out on the road.
Yes.
Conference season is just around the corner.
Uh,
But this was fun.
Absolutely. So Gordon, if our listeners want to connect with you to learn more about your work or just follow, you as what's the best way? Is it connect on LinkedIn or?
LinkedIn is the LinkedIn's getting better. It's getting better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, whether it's posting some of my musings or things that are top of mind
Wonderful.
for me, or just doing some pro bono work, or connecting with folks from different places. That's probably going to be the best place to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. So for our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, one thing I would challenge you to do is think of one person who would benefit from you hearing and learning more from what Gordon had to say. Send them a link so they can also listen. And of course, you can please follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the ways that we know to access podcasts. Add a review. It helps us get found as well. So we really appreciate you tuning in today. And with that, it's a wrap. So until next time, stay curious, chart your own course, and keep on learning. Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you, Sam.